Hi, I'm Jesse Goldberg.
And I'm Lisa Harless.
And welcome to Mind Your Own Music Business.
That's right. It's a new episode, a new night.
A new year, a new guest, a new everything.
We have an extraordinary guest because not only is this guy an amazing songwriter, vocalist, publisher, label exec, but he's here on your show.
What about the
dear
guest?
friend of mine, the amazing Mr. NorroWilson.
that was one too many.
No, I needed more fingers.
That's right. Good to
But
be here.
this is awesome to have you here.
Thank you. Good to be
Oh
here.
my goodness, there's so much history, and Jesse is going to be asking you all kinds of questions. But the first thing I've got to know is that you're from a small town, Scottsville, Kentucky, and how does a small town guy find his way to the big city of Nashville?
Oh, that's kind of a hard question because it's so involved. But I was like a lot of kids, I suppose. My mom wanted me to take piano lessons, and I didn't want to take piano lessons because in the day,
Yes.
you might be considered a little sissy or something if you.
Hey,
played
wait a
piano.
second. I was no sissy.
But the tough guys played the tuba
No,
and the
that's fine.
trumpet.
Well, yeah, but I'm just
big boy
saying that
instrument.
anyway, I did that, and then that got me interested in singing in the Glee Club because I wasn't a jockey. I didn't play basketball. I was too small a kid. And from that, we won some things with the Kentucky State Festival, Music State Festival, with the Barbershop Quartet.
Oh,
And I think I mentioned to you that Cal Turner was part of that little quartet.
yes. Cal Turner Jr. of the Dollar General
Absolutely,
fame.
absolutely.
So you were tenor. He sang what part?
He was lead, I believe,
The
at
lead.
the time. That flip-flopped at some point. Nevertheless, one thing led to another, and we'll talk about that as it goes on.
Right.
But that's how I ended up in Nashville, Tennessee.
So you played a big venue. What was that in Bowling Green? Was that when you were a high school student?
Well, it was the Van Meter Auditorium, which
Okay.
I don't recall how many people that held actually, but it's a very large venue, and so we had the Glee Club and the chorus, and different ensembles, and then the Barbershop Quartet, and I don't know, there must have been 15 quartets competing,
Okay.
and so you'll know this. We sang the Happy Wanderer.
The Happy Wanderer?
Yeah, may
And
I go?
nailed it.
Yeah.
I mean, is that Gilbert
That
and Sullivan?
old, may I go a-wandering along the mountain track, and as I go I laugh and sing my knapsack on my back, Valderie, Valdera, doo-dee-dee-dee-dee.
Wow.
And so on and so on.
he's looking at
Anyway,
me like, look on my face.
anyway, we won that, and I would say that might have been a little grease paint noise of the crowd that might have stirred my heart a little bit.
When did you come to Nashville?
1957.
57. Wow, I wasn't even born yet.
That's why he's had all this
Well-
accomplished while you and I've been just getting going and getting geared up. But so you're in that Barbershop Quartet. Then you end up at Western as a college
Right.
student, right?
Yeah, I got a scholarship, and in
Vocal?
music as a vocal. Yeah, I was
All
a
right.
voice major, as they call it. And so really, I only completed a couple of semesters till we came to Nashville. My family used to come to Nashville.
You love gospel
And
music.
yes,
I heard you
always
say.
did. Yes. And in the days of the Statesman Quartet and the Blackwood Brothers Quartet, and it was just the greatest entertainment till this day I think I've ever seen. Mm-hmm. And so
Showman as well.
Oh, that's what I mean.
addition
That's
to the
just, they
vocal.
were great entertainers as well as great singers. And so the piano player of the Southlanders Quartet, had walked back to get a Coke and a hot dog or something in the back of the Ryman, and he said hello, and I said hello, and I was just in awe of the young group.
Right. And you said that you guys dressed pretty spiffy when you came to town.
Well,
you had the cool
you tried to
shoes
look
and
at, that was the days
pants.
of pink and charcoal.
Right. So you
That-
were rocking it.
that
Hey,
dates me.
You still rock the charcoal.
That charcoal and pink. Yeah, I remember having a little pink sweater on, and I don't know, I think I had a little chain, a little fob, said Western Kentucky, and I was trying to be as cool as I knew.
Right.
And the old loafers, the two-toners.
So when did you get into country music for real? I mean,
Well, it's a little bit later down the road, about 10 years from the time I started school, and then I gave up and came down here and joined the Southlanders Quartet to sing. And didn't think any different, but just plan A in that direction. And it was about a 10-year period before I finally gave up the road.
Did you
quit
have,
making
you had
records.
you had a record deal? You put out a record, right?
I recorded for every label in the city except CBS.
Really?
Wow.
So
How many albums did you do?
I didn't, you know, I didn't make but one album that was on Smash Records, but I was on nearly all the labels, and all I can tell you is, I think I had the talent. I didn't, after doing what I've done now for a lot of years, I don't think I had the songs.
Okay.
I don't think any artist is worth a hoot without the song. But it takes a while to get to that, to
Right.
understand that.
you don't think you-
don't mean the artist is not important, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's like a jockey and the horse. I don't know which is, you know, but you don't get any place without having a hit song.
Well, throughout your music career, we didn't say this yet, but you have produced a lot of people. You also wrote the song "The Most Beautiful Girl in the World."
Yes,
Most
sir.
Beautiful Girl. But you also produced. Are these Ernest Tubb? You produced Ernest Tubb?
No, now there's some stuff in that I don't exactly know where that may be.
How about you name some of the artists that you produced?
He produced
I
Shania
couldn't-
Twain's first record,
Shania
Kenny
Twain,
Chesney,
Kenny
Reba
Chesney.
McEntire, Charlie McClain, John Anderson, Gary Morris. Pretty much many of the artists throughout the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, a lot.
You produce those. And when
Right.
you go to NorroWilson.com, the discography there is incredible, both as a writer and a publisher and a songwriter, and all
So
of those.
throughout
different
your whole
things.
musical career, what was your biggest strength as a producer? But what was your biggest strength? You just said it wasn't your writing; it was
I think melodies.
melodies, writing
I
melodies. or,
admit to you clearly that I was not the best lyric writer at all.
Right.
However, I learned. You know, you learn by doing, and that's a fact. You know, so if you got some talent and if you got a little bit of natural ears, and I didn't say I'm gifted. I think I'm talented, but not gifted.
Well, speaking of lyrics, I read in this
Yeah.
bio here that you sold Bibles with Roger Miller. He was one.
Oh,
of the,
we did.
He was a lyric writer.
Well, yes, and he was probably a couple years older than me, and we were out East Nashville selling Bibles. We only lasted 3 days, and some
Who
friends.
sold more Bibles? You or Roger
No,
Miller?
couldn't say. We didn't do flip, and it wasn't any good. And so, anyway, somebody came up and asked Roger, said, "Well, why did you and Norro quit selling Bibles?" He said, "Well, the Lord called us out of it." So I don't find any sacrilege
Right.
in
Usually
saying the
folks
Lord,
say the Lord
called
called
me
me
in.
into
You know,
this mission.
well, if you're not making a living and you
He
can't
says-
sell the Bible,
he says
he
the
needs to
Lord-
call you out.
Right.
I think
Can you
And
tell us the story of this Most Beautiful Girl? How that came about?
I can.
Can you hold that up for the viewers? You've
Becky,
got
you
the
can
sheet
get
music.
this if you can.
The most
Sorry.
beautiful girl in the world.
I was recording for Smash Records.
Right.
Were you
And
Norro Wilson
I was
at that
Norro
point?
Wilson on Smash
A
Records,
solo
produced
artist.
by Jerry Kennedy. The song I had recorded was a song written by Rory Burke.
Okay.
So I get on a plane to go to Chicago to hit all the stations in Chicago with this new record. And I mean, Rory Burke's a sweetheart. I mean, they don't come better than Rory Burke.
I agree.
Let me just tell you that.
Yes.
And
So you're doing a promotion tour.
Yeah, I'm
for
doing a
your-
promotion
your
tour, and I hadn't even thought about this song, anything.
Right.
That's why every now and then in our lives and music and careers, magic happens.
And you can't
And you
plan
don't
it,
need
you
to
can't
kind of take
schedule
credit
it.
for some of those things. It's a wonderful
Just
gift.
go with it.
He already had this song. He had the first verse of this song, and I never will forget. And I don't mind saying it. We might have had a little alcoholic poisoning the next morning.
Little
Just,
alcoholic.
I had a little poisoning.
Right.
I wasn't really interested in jumping up and drinking coffee and juice and writing, you know. And so next thing, there's a little tap on the little guest room, and he says, "You want some coffee?" You know, yes. You know, what are you going to do, say no? And he said, "Let's write a song." Well, I'm with the promotion man that can help make or break my career, and so I said, "Well, sure, of course." So
Now's
I
a
remember
good time.
about the time I got awake, there was Miss Wilson, the cat, that had slipped between my feet. So get up, and it started right there, and he recited to me and kind of thumped on the guitar. I woke up this morning and realized what I'd done, you know,
Right.
and that just brought a chill to me, actually. And if you know about that verse, I said to him, then and there, I have no idea where this came from, but we were in a second floor apartment building in Chicago, and I said, "Rory, what you think that guy might go out of the apartment and go down on the street and go try to see somebody or some guy and walk up to the guy and say, 'Hey, mister, did you happen to see the most beautiful girl in the world? And if you saw her, was she crying?
Oh.
I mean,
Well, but the
that
original
history
song, I
was
read
made.
somewhere that the original song was called "Hey Mister,"
it was.
and then it got
He
changed
changed
by
it.
somebody.
Yeah, it was.
Why did it get changed? Because
Billy Sherrill said, "Hey, mister, what are you talking about? Hey, mister, what is that mister stuff?" And embarrassed us, and he made the change. That's why there's 3 writers on it.
Okay.
And very deserving that he did it, because it made the song definitive.
Right.
It's very uncomfortable to say, "Hey, mister, did you happen to see?" Well, you just go, "Hey." It's enough said right there.
Right.
So that was
That wasn't the message.
That was
Hey,
no.
mister wasn't
Now
the
the
message.
shotgun was, "Hey," and that just made it so fine.
And
yeah,
as,
absolutely.
as a songwriter, is that, a banker can ask this kind of a question. As a songwriter, is that the song that made you the most money?
Oh, of course. Yeah, I mean,
And
you
then
know,
there
to
were
this day, it's almost 7 million performances.
Wow.
And I don't know about other people. I don't hear it so much anymore, but it's still played a lot.
WSM
There was a
AM
time we
650
were
plays that.
right on the edge of being as big as anyone, you know, with performances.
what year was that? Late '60s?
74.
74? Oh, guess I'm
The
wrong.
biggest song to date for being my writer is "You've Lost That Loving Feeling," and that's my favorite record.
Really?
And the producer had to be a little wacko, but man, what a record that was.
that's-
You know, he
Who wrote
really
that
got
song?
Phil Spector.
Really?
Great
Yeah,
record.
he wrote it and produced. You know,
As
that's
a producer, you get it.
Never close.
As a producer, you get a percentage of the record sales, right? What do you
We get a royalty.
You get a
We get a royalty.
And you get
when
paid
I
something
got when I
up front.
stopped. Well, yeah, usually
the record.
front. Yeah, usually
Is
a
it
bit of
still
front money.
something you still keep getting now?
Yeah, but it gets
Smaller.
less and less. Certainly does. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because it hadn't been that long since I was working with Kenny Chesney, and that, I mean, he's the biggest act I ever worked with.
And as a producer, when you
No
work,
shoes, no problem, right?
That was yeah.
Yeah.
You're right.
when you've worked
You've
up,
been doing your homework.
he's been studying up on your website and going to Wikipedia.
I'm going like,
He
Kenny
don't
who?
act like he's knowing anything, eh?
But
You
he
wanna-
does.
wanna know something?
He's sharp.
Kenny Chesney opened the door for me at the flea market one day. Really, I said I was carrying this whole bunch of stuff, and I said, "Can you get that door?" And he got the door, and he said, "Hey, thanks." And that was Kenny Chesney.
He's
Very
as
cool.
nice as it gets.
Little.
He is.
Yes, he's a small guy. He's
With a lot of
but
power in that
I'll
voice
tell you
and that
what,
fan base.
he's. I called him Mini Garth for a while because we realized halfway down through the time I was working with he and Buddy was we were co-producers.
Buddy Cannon.
Buddy Cannon, yeah. And so I started calling him Mini Garth because he had a great education.
UT.
And he UT, thank you. And he didn't miss any tricks. He didn't miss anything. When he was coming in to record, he'd bring his video camera and shoot all kind of stuff. And a lot of that became part of his first videos he did. He's really, really hard worker, really smart. I give him so much credit. Really do.
So you had this solo deal. I know you were part of a trio too, called the Omegas.
The Omegas, yeah.
And Owen Bradley produced
Owen
that.
Bradley, you know, that's as big a thrill for me
How
as I can
incredible.
talk about in my life.
And those
is
of
that
us-
Owen Bradley literally produced my little group of guys. There were 3 of us, and we did an old Fred Rose song called "No One Will Ever Know How Much I Love You."
Then you had your.
Although a million teardrops start to fall.
Oh no.
Keep going. We'll
That's
listen.
it. That's it. No, I
And
won't
then
do
your.
that. I'm gonna.
Then after the Omegas, you had your solo deal, and on Monument.
Right.
Fred Foster.
That
the
was
incredible Fred Foster
yeah. That
produced
was
record.
next. Hmm.
Now I know in your high school annual it says NorroWilson, but we all know him now as NorroWilson. So now, how did all of a sudden this Scottsville, Kentucky NorroWilson become this rock star name?
Well, when I had
Norro?
when we had the Southlanders Quartet, we were asked. There was a gentleman by the name of A.O. Stinson who was promoting a young gal who was a gospel singer.
Okay.
And they wanted background singers, and we were doing things like that. We even did we sang with Farron Young and Furlan Husky, whatnot. So the next thing you know,
So kind of like the Jordanaires were backing Elvis.
That's exactly
You had a
right.
quartet backing these other acts.
That's exactly right.
Very cool.
Very cool. And anyway, we started going to Boudleaux and Felicia's house, and he was writing some songs.
The Bryants, who wrote Rocky Top and Wake Up Little
Oh, Wake
Susan.
Up
Million
Susan,
things.
Bye Bye
Yes.
Love. Oh man, they're so unreal.
So you're hanging
And
out with the
sweetest
Bryants.
people. Yeah. So anyway, Felice. She was Italian, and Boudleaux was French.
Were they really Italian and French?
Absolutely.
You can tell by the names there.
But I mean, were they American? But
Yes, but I mean, they were of
US
Italian.
citizens.
They were of
Just
Italian
descent.
blood and
Right, okay.
and French blood. But we'd go in there, and for some reason or other, Felice would call me Neurosi. And I said, "Why are you calling me Neurosi?" And I said, "Am I neurotic or something?"
Do I strike you as funny?
being neurotic. And so,
Right.
so anyway, that went, and then a day or two after that, walked in one day in their house, and Boudleaux said, "Norro."
that was it.
Well, how
It's
cool.
been that way for, I'm 73 years young, and it's been that way ever since. So only when somebody says Norris, they either know something or they're from home.
Or it
They're
might
from
be
up.
the
They're from
IRS.
up the road here in Scottsdale, Kentucky.
Tell me, you had Lori Morgan did one of your songs? Did you produce one
He
of her
produced
albums?
Lori.
Well, Billy Sherrill and I, as friends, and we got together, and they asked if we'd do it, and for RCA, I believe. Well, I think that's what it was.
Which album was it?
Oh, flip! I couldn't tell you from nothing. But anyway, we did that, and you couldn't get Billy to get out and even go in the studio.
Wow.
But he did with me, and we had a good time.
And all right, so in addition to doing all this solo performing act, then you get into the songwriting. You have all these hits, the front, what was the other one? Front Porch? No.
Oh, the front porch.
No, not the front porch. The top 3 songs that you wrote.
Oh, a very special love song.
Yes.
And the
Picture of Me
most-
Without
Picture of Me
You.
Without You and the Grand Tour.
The Grand Tour.
Yeah.
That's right. I was saying about the Grand Tour. So you were working as a publisher, as a plugger.
Yeah, I started
so he
to
started
work-
pitching songs for these other songwriters.
Yeah, I started work for Al Gallico Music, plugging the songs. And one thing led to another. And being in that environment, of course, Al Gallico and Billy Sherrill had a partnership going on. And as a result, then I got to hanging around Glenn Sutton and George Ritchie, and so I can't sit here and stretch out and hold my gut in and say that I did all this. I was a co-writer,
With some other creative
and
geniuses.
I hated writing by myself. I wrote one song by myself that's probably semi-worthy, and that's July the 12th, 1939, and Charlie Rich did that in an album, but a collaborator was fun for me.
You said you were a piano player, right?
Yeah, I played guitar and piano bad enough to write hits.
Right. So you were mostly your biggest
Just enough
asset
to accompany
as a
yourself.
musician was a singer, right?
As
yeah,
a tenor.
yeah. Actually, I'm firstly a performer, and so and I worked I worked all the nightclubs in the southeastern part of the United States, every single one. And when you imagine, we still had those in the '60s.
Right. Was King of the Road in Nashville, was that
King
around?
of the Road, but that
That wasn't one of
that
yours.
wasn't my bailiwick. The kind of nightclubs I worked with, like Iroquois Gardens in Louisville, Kentucky, and the Domino Lounge in Atlanta, Georgia, with Jonathan Winters and Dave Gardner, and the Elmwood Casino in Windsor, Canada. Worked with Tony Bennett when he wasn't anything yet.
Whoa, incredible.
Bob Newhart when he wasn't anything yet. And it's pretty amazing. I've had a very, very wonderful, interesting,
And varied.
and very
So much,
diverse. Yeah,
yes.
I mean, the only thing I haven't been in the music business that I know about
a female singer.
Is a female singer.
But you can hit some of those notes.
Well, there was a time.
What was your favorite thing that you've done? One of your favorite things that you've done that we
I would think
haven't
they're all
talked
so
about?
fulfilling.
That's a really good question. I've done so many things in the music business. It was fun, but certain people. I mean, I got to produce an album on Chet Atkins. That blows my mind till today.
When you produce a Chet
Eddie
Atkins,
Arnold.
say you're producing Chet Atkins, what exactly are you doing?
Well, you're really helping him get the record going. I mean, you're managing the process of the record making, basically, so he don't have to think about anything.
Lining up the engineer,
Yeah, I
the
mean, it's a
studio,
producer's job. I've seen
the
you on here
musicians.
before. You know everybody and talked to tons and tons of people. And a producer is nothing other than the guy. He's important. He's an important guy because, generally speaking, unlike Chet, you're looking for the songs that fit the artist. Most artists don't know a hit song if it hit them in the rear.
Neither do songwriters. I tell you the
Well,
truth.
but that is, to tell you the truth, it's a whole lot like that because they're so locked into their little cubicle, their little world.
And
you
the
know?
demo
Right.
may just be a guitar vocal.
Yeah,
or
but you
you can
hear
hear
with
it.
I hear with different ears as a producer then if you're my artist, you hear you like you, but that don't necessarily mean that song's good for you.
Right.
So it really does take a combination of things, and they need to work together real well. I've often said in my career, the best records I ever had anything to do with that made it big were the ones that were magical, which means I didn't do anything.
Right song,
I mean,
right
no,
artist,
I'm being very
right.
honest, very truthful. I mean, we did John Anderson. We did Old
We've
Chunk
got
of Coal.
that
Well,
That's one right here?
That you,
John Anderson Greatest Hits. We
Norro
have a
did some of
copy
the,
it.
produced some of the sides on this
Sure
one.
did.
What an incredible talent.
well, yeah, I'm as happy and proud of working with John as anyone I can talk to you about. And when he was 21 years old, he was like the oldest 21-year-old man I ever met.
Is that
Oh,
right?
yeah.
I didn't
and
know
he,
him.
Yeah, and he just talked down there like that and twisted that old head and talked to you. You'd think he just got out of the plow field.
Wow.
And a voice and a sound like no other.
Exactly.
Like you could say, you could be gone for 1,000 years and hear that voice. It's like
So it's
Willie Nelson.
Chad Brock you produced?
Yeah, I
him too?
loved working with Chad Brock. Chad Brock
He was a
great.
wrestler, wasn't
Yeah,
Yeah.
he really was.
Now, we haven't even talked about the fact that you were a record label executive on top of all these other things.
Right.
And you had, a 6-year run at Warner Brothers,
Yes,
6 or 7 year run at RCA.
and a 6-year run at RCA.
I had a meeting today with Gary Morris, and he said, love NorroWilson. He signed me to Warner Brothers.
I did.
Who else?
I did his first 3 or 4 songs.
And he and John Anderson were coming up at about the same time over
Yeah,
at Warner
absolutely
Brothers.
was the same time.
What was Shania Twain like on her first album?
Sweet gal, and she is and still is, and you'll particularly get a kick out of this. Frank, what, golly, my mind slipped on me.
Well, I know
here.
Harold Shedd was involved in her career, and
Dick Frank.
went to
That's
Canada.
what I was trying. That's what I was trying to
See,
say.
I
was
can
saying,
finish your sentences.
Thank you. You know what I'm thinking.
This is scary, isn't it?
Dick Frank
You're a great attorney.
called me up and said, Norro, he said, I really think I've found a great artist. He said, I went up to Canada and I met this lady. And
It was like a theater venue.
yeah, and well, she
right?
was a nightclubber.
Yeah.
They still have some of that. And she basically is that kind of a club singer that I loved. You know, I liked everything
I'm
about
a huge
it.
fan.
And I liked the texture of her voice. I thought that was different enough.
Right.
And so I produced a $1,500 demo, which proves that you don't have to
Spend
kill
a
it with
ton
so
of
much
money
money.
if
It's
you've
just-
got the talent.
It's ridiculous.
Right.
And that $1,500 demo got her a deal, and then Harold Shedd signed her. Then Harold and I did the first album. It was good.
And then at RCA, who were some of your colleagues on that management team at RCA in those days? Jerry Bradley,
Well, he was my boss.
your boss. I'd say he's a colleague.
You did like a little bit of everything.
Yeah,
Song
I don't-
plugger,
there are-
publisher,
I did.
record company,
Right.
singer.
I did.
He's
Producer.
the jack of all trades. That's why the resume and the discography says to be continued. Next
Well-
page, next page.
I'm glad I did all of it. I worked in a circus.
The circus. is
Literally.
what?
Yeah, I did. Well, I was a barker.
Really?
Now, ladies and gentlemen, you know, I went through that thing, equestrian perfection.
Whoa. Now, see, I didn't know that.
So I did that. Did that for an infamous local man, Jack Norman. Jack Norman.
Oh, I know that
Jack
name.
Norman Jr., one of our greater lawyers. And
Wow.
he's a great friend till today.
We've got 3 or 4 minutes left as we kind of continue on this, but
Well, we're not even getting started.
I know
here.
it. This is just part
Ooh,
one.
I shouldn't have said that. Sounds terrible.
Just part one. But so I know folks are going, well, all this talent, all these connections, and all this energy, what are you doing with yourself now? Where will folks find you?
I am doing nothing, and I'm not finished.
That's a great line.
Hey, I've been doing nothing all my life.
I'm doing nothing. And
I'm good at it.
I'm good.
I could teach you that about
Well,
doing nothing.
maybe so, but you might learn a few things from me at this point. I'm enjoying myself a lot, and the
Right.
industry's changed a lot, and I don't have any sour grapes about that.
Right.
It's some of it's quite unfortunate, you know, but it's gonna the face of the industry is gonna change considerable because of the internet.
Well, I know you spend time on a houseboat
I
up
do.
at Cedar Creek Yacht
Yeah.
Club, and I think there's a little granddaughter in your life.
She. There you are. There's your.
There's your answer.
What's the most fun I've had?
Playing with your
Granddaughter.
And you've got your
Yeah,
2 kids,
yeah,
and they're
yeah. I
having
got a
wonderful
son and
lives
a daughter,
here.
and Christy is the mother of Wilson, and she chose to name her Wilson. And I told my daughter, I said, "Well, what a concept!" Made me very happy.
So
And
you're
you
living
see
back in
about-
Kentucky now?
I do not. I still have my home place in Kentucky, and I think I said to you the other day that I never could figure it out. Cal Turner and I sang together that little quartet and all that, and I've had a hard time all these years trying to understand why there's such a marked difference in Dollar General's royalty statement and Norro's.
Well, I think NorroWilson's royalty statement has had a lot of longevity. Maybe
Well,
it hadn't, the stock price hadn't doubled and tripled.
Right, I've lived through it. That's okay.
You've
It's been
had
good.
an amazing
The
life.
deal is that I've enjoyed it. Hopefully I'm going to do a book. Everybody does a book.
Yes,
But my
you
book's
should.
for different reasons. My book is not going to be about who dated who and who drank the most booze. And I think it'll be rather funny when I'm finished with it.
Oh, well, you're one of the funniest people I know.
Well, it's very involved, and it's going to talk about I got a lot to do. I got a lot to talk about, and I've been saying that I'm going to do it, and so I hope I follow.
Well, you got to
through.
get somebody to write it for you, like, you know.
I just need somebody to talk to me.
Right. And
But
they
I
tape
need
it.
somebody that knows about me.
Right.
Right.
You know, that's almost
Don
someone that
Cusick
goes.
would be a
Lisa
good
right here.
man.
Lisa could do it.
She could do
Yeah.
it.
You never
but
know.
you need someone who goes back in history with you.
Lisa's about 83 years old now. I
You
think.
are, aren't you?
I mean,
You're looking
and still
good.
going. It's because I hang around people like you
You're
and
looking
Jesse.
good.
Well, this
I
has
shouldn't have
been,
said that. You don't say that to girls, right?
What's that? You looking
I shouldn't
good?
say that. She's 38, not 83.
Okay.
No, that's right.
He
Well,
know- he does
That's
them
a
always
thing
as
that
friends.
comes
Right.
along. You get.
I'm just a little
You're
dyslexic.
getting older. Well,
Yeah.
look, it's okay for you to lose your keys. Okay for you to put them in the refrigerator. But when you don't know what they are or what they're for, you're in trouble.
All right. Well, on
This
that
has
note,
been
we have to get
awesome.
going.
This has been fantastic.
All right. My name is Jesse Goldberg. This is Lisa Harless. This is NorroWilson, AKA Norris Wilson.
Norro.
Norris Norro.
That's
and
right.
we'll be back next week with another edition of Mind Your Own Music Business.
It's been a pleasure.